All right, guys and girls, we are back again with, I don't know how I should display this. This is kind of awkward. Another subscription box unboxing. I accidentally cut it. I haven't really opened it yet, but I realized that I wasn't recording. So that was embarrassing. But anyway, we have this time the Sketchbox. And the art on the front is by Ashley Neagle. You can go ahead and follow her on Instagram right there. It's an awesome little horse, possibly chess piece. Really cool illustration there. Go give her a follow on Instagram. But let's get to the unboxing. And this is what we have here. And I can't really see into here from my perspective because I got a microphone in my face. I got a camera over the box. But I see something I think I already own. It's actually, give me a second. I believe it to be, you might have a better idea from your vantage point, but I believe it to be the Kuretake Black Ink 60 manga and cartooning ink. If so, I'll be very happy. And so will anybody else receive this box because this is a fantastic ink. This works great with Copics, by the way. That's actually the reason I have this. It works great with Copics. So let's first suspect if, yes, I got 2 bottles of this. So now I kind of regret buying the bottle I already have, but I already know this is going to be a good ink. So I can already vouch this is a good ink. So I'm happy that I got that. Got some green ribbony things. And the menu, I don't want the surprise spoiled for me because I can't see in this box like you can. So this is still a surprise for me. The art for this is fantastic graphic art. That is amazing. I see a lot of blue, and I believe these are made with the supplies in here, so I can tell you we're going to get a blue ink, which I actually don't own any colored India inks, so that would be fantastic to get. And this is by Andy Cheng, who is an illustrator from Taiwan. His social media info is right there. It is at Andy1878art, or his website is andycillustration.com. So go give him a follow because this is some wonderful graphic style art there. I really like that. What else do we have? I see another ink, Windsor and Newton. Oh, shit. Windsor Newton white ink. Actually, this is one of the few white inks I do not own. So that will be fun to test. And I got something else in here. The Marabou Fineliner Graphics. I've seen these, I believe, in Blick's art material stores. I'm actually really happy to have gotten these, as well as I just ordered some Windsor and Newton Fineliner. So it'll be fun to add these to the Fineliner Shootout retake that I'm going to do. And a nice Sketchbox sticker, which I really like, by @Shannon Chiba, I believe. Shannon, I think it's Chiba, however you pronounce that. That is the sticker there. What else? There's a lot of stuff in this box. Very October or Inktober themed. We have a Kuretake Fude pen. I'm not sure if this is what type of Fude pen this is. Is it blue? It is blue. So there's our blue ink, a Kuretake. Now, some of you may not know, but if you watched my October sketchbook themed one, you would know that I actually have some Kuretake Fude pens already. So now I have a blue one. That's fantastic. What else do we have? The Copic Drawing the Copic Drawing Pen. I have wanted this too, and never have gotten around to buying it. But I've been kind of on a kick of like portable drawing pen supplies. Oh, there's something else in here. A 12B. Wow. Okay, so a 12B Staedtler Mars Lumograph pencil. That's going to be pretty dark. Oh, there's more in here? What else do we have? Water-based pigment, keep horizontal. I'm kind of curious. Is this gray? I don't know. Give me a second. Let me grab one of my dope sheets off to the side real quick, which had white ink sitting on it. Let's give this a test real quick. Ooh, okay. It is gray. This is a gray That's interesting, the way this like kind of brush nib works. So let's kind of show that real quick. So this is like a brush ball nib. Kind of interesting how you can get some, like how you can get some fading from that. That's pretty cool. And this side is a hard felt tip, plastic tip. So that's pretty cool. Back to the unboxing. What else do we have in here? Any other surprises? No. So we have a silver silk flat shader brush. I've actually heard of silver silk recently, but I don't know much about it. I don't know why I know that name. Anyway, so those are the supplies. Now let's get to our menu and read about them. Kuretake Zig Black Ink 60. Retail price is about $7. So this month is all about ink. Yeah, we know that as it's Inktober, but that's my favorite month of the year for the obvious reason. So what we have, we love this ink's ability to dry quickly and become waterproof, which is true. It plays well with markers, other inks, and can be diluted with water to create beautiful gray washes. Also true. That's actually one of the reasons I have this ink, is because it's one of the few inks that is waterproof and Copic resistant. However, you do have to let it dry. I'd recommend letting it dry overnight. Then we have the Windsor Newton White Drawing Ink. Retail price is $5.49. This pigment-based ink is great for going over dark areas to create highlights or bright white strokes. It's a little transparent and allows the flexibility of brightening certain spots to create the exact shade you want. Okay, so it's like other white drawing inks that they're on the transparent side. And in fact, let's give that a little test. All right, so we have our white Windsor Newton ink. All right, I'm going to actually give this a stir. See how this works. I've never used the Windsor Newton white ink. I've used their black. I'm kind of curious to see how this works with a nib. First off, how does it flow from a nib is the most important question. Flows really well from a nib. I take that back. Some minor flow issues. It's a little bit on the thicker side. There we go. I don't know if I want to dilute this or not. It flows really well from a nib, actually, once you get it going. But as it dries, it does go a little transparent. So when scanning, this would be adequate for doing corrections. But from a brush, you'd have to lay more than one layer down. So all in all, it's performed like a lot of the other white inks I've tried. So there we go. Not disappointed with it. It's just very similar to other white inks I've tried, which is basically not as opaque as I'd like. I like to use thicker whites, like Pro White or Bleed Proof White. The best white ink I've found is the Dr. P.H. Martin's Pen White. Anyway, let's move on. The Kuretake Zig Cambio Indigo. Retail price, $10. This is first look. I don't know what that means, first look. We love these brush pens. Unlike other brush pens, they are fed via squeezing the barrel to get the ink to the tip, just like the Pentel brush pens seen here, or Fude pen. This one regulates the flow of ink to make sure you get the perfect amount of ink without overflow. The color is brand new to the USA and is appearing first in SketchBox before it hits stores. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. Copic Drawing Pen, 2mm black. I'm assuming that that's what the F02 means on that. They're great for line drawing and hatching. That'd be cool to try out. Kuretake Zig Clean Color Dot Pen, gray. Retail price is $3.40. Dual tip marker with a 0.5mm fine tip on one end and a flexible dot tip on the other. Dots of various sizes can be drawn by adjusting the pressure. Yeah, so I was kind of doing like not dots with it, but it worked well for the not dots. I didn't even try to do dots with it. Staedtler Mars Lumograph 12B, $2.20. A carbon-rich dark pencil to sketch out your piece before you lay down. If you're sketching with 12B, holy crap. Marabu Graphics Black 4 set, retail price, $7. For set line widths and black brushstrokes, we included this set from Marabu, which includes one set of a 0.2, 0.4, and 0.8mm and a brush tip pen. It's great for adding illustrative elements, details, and finishing touches to your art this month. True. And then the silver brush, Silver Silk 88 flat shader size 4. Price $6.55. Finally, we included a flat shader brush from Silver Brush, and a small size to use with the included ink from Zig and Windsor and Newton. The shape of the brush head allows for tons of flexibility in stroke thickness and is great for creating bold strokes, line work, calligraphy, and so much more. Also true. It's one of the great things about these flat shader brushes is because they are flat, you can go one way and create a thin line, or go this way and create a thick line, or even use them on a diagonal, and creating different line widths with that, or just really handy for laying down a wash, and just kind of handy for laying down a wash. So that is cool. I can't get this back on there. There we go. So that's really cool for this month's box. Now, this being ink based, I really do want to do some swatching beyond what I did on this. Oh, I can do it on the back of my dope sheet. So let me zoom in a little bit and let's do some swatching real quick. We got my trusty Hunt 102. Now, rather than opening a brand new package of ink, I'm going to use the identical ink that I already own. All right, before using any pigmented ink, make sure to give it a nice stir. That way the pigment that's settling towards the bottom gets resuspended. The only problem is you may end up with bubbles in your ink, which is very common. This one did not bubble too badly. The only problem is you want to make sure you get your nib fully coated in the ink. So let's see how this performs. Now this Sumi ink does have a smell to it, not unlike some other Sumi inks. And let's see how it performs. Let's get the nib started. Now, if I remember correctly, this is a little bit thicker of an ink. When you have ink that flows like this, where when you do thicker lines, it flows great, but thinner lines, or you get some railroading, that just means the ink's a little too thick. So the tip to that is get yourself some distilled water and simply dilute the ink slightly with distilled water. So I actually keep a pipette next to me in my brush container, and I have a gallon of distilled water down underneath my desk. And that's actually what I do, because your inks will thicken over time as they're exposed to air and the solvents and carriers kind of evaporate. So rather than throw out your ink when it's 3/4 of the way full, simply dilute your ink. Now, you'll kind of get the hang of this over time as far as how much water to ink you need to add, but I'm going to add a few drops of water to this. I do have a large volume of ink in there, so I'm just going to add some water in there. And this works perfectly fine even with bottles that may have sat on a shelf for a long time and have thickened that way. Just give it a stir or a good shake, and then let's try the ink again. Now let's see how it works. Perfect. This is flowing just like I like it to. Now I'm able to create super fine hairlines, draw without putting too much pressure. Getting a little skipping, so I may want to dilute this a little bit further. But overall, I'm pretty pleased with the performance of that now. So yeah, so still getting a little skipping when doing super fine lines. As you can see, I'm not really getting too much on the page. So I probably will dilute this ink down a little bit more, and you may have to do the same. But overall, this is a very good ink, and if it is on the thicker side and you plan on using it with a brush, that's actually a good thing. You're going to get better coverage. But the ink works very, very well. Let's do some thin lines. And let's actually grab our brush and see how it performs. So yeah, it's laying down very, very opaque and dark from the brush, which is actually one of the things I really like about this ink. It's a very dark ink. So as you can see, I'm able to get very thin lines. And then if I want, I can turn it around, starting to dry brush. So this would actually be very good for getting some dry brush technique. It's a little bit lighter on the dry brush, but there you go. Starting to get that perfect point of dry brush. So the ink performs really, really well on the brush, which is a great thing. Now, in case you're curious about this, what? That's new. Now, the important thing to know on these, that the primary ink flow that you're going to get out of these is going to be based on how you, This is different. Okay, which do I squeeze anything? So this, I don't know if you can see, but I'm squeezing really hard. This is not like this one where it's actually squeezable, as you can see there. So this, I'm kind of curious how this works. You can see that the ink's starting to flow to the tip already. Now, I'm not going to get any good performance from this until the ink fully saturates. So let's move this over. So while we wait for our Fude pen to fully saturate with ink, and we wait for our black ink to dry so we can test our white ink, let's move on to the next item. So let's try to get these graphics liners out of the box real quick and kind of get a quick idea. So this is what they look like. Gray barrel, black cap. I don't know how I feel about the gray barrel. I think a black barrel would have been better suited. The brush pen is one I'm always critical of in these. So let's go ahead and start off with our thinnest. This is our 02. Ink seems to flow well. It does get a little light on quick strokes with the 02, which is not uncommon. Let's try the 04. So there's two different ways to use fine liners. One of the ways to use fine liners is for a very precise tip. You hold it straight up and down, and you get your full thickness line, your 0.8 millimeter line. The other way is you can hold it at an angle, which will thin out your line, and then also the speed at which you draw your line will change the thickness of the line. So you can actually use your fine liners to create different line weights based on the angle and the speed at which you use your fine liner. So far, these feel kind of like a Staedtler pigment liner. Let's see how the brush tip performs. Okay, the brush tip is a very soft brush tip, and it's a felt tip. My criticism of the felt tips is your feathering always has frayed ends. So let me show you what I mean by that. I haven't eaten today, so my hands are very shaky thanks to low blood sugar. But let me see if you can see that. Let's get that in frame and get it to focus. I know I'm casting some mean shadows, but if you can see that, how the edges of that are not smoothly tapered compared to how it would be if I did that same rendering with a brush. That's my big criticism on felt pens. But the ink is decently dark. It's dark enough for me to use. The ink flows well enough. There's no line skipping or anything like that. I don't know if these would replace microns for me, as I'm really happy with the micron pigment, but they seem to really work well enough. If you're not happy with microns, you might consider giving these a try. And now for our next item, the 12B pencil. Now I should normally sharpen this, but let's see how this lays down. Now, yeah, this is 12B. This is super soft lead. Super soft. Lays down a lot of graphite there. Very smooth though. Now the problem with soft leads like this that lay down so much graphite is they smudge a lot. I don't know personally. I would never sketch with something this dark, but I would go in after with a 2B or darker pencil after my initial sketch and darken up the lines I know I'm going to keep. And I do that because I then light box my sketch onto my actual drawing paper with a 2H or 4H pencil. And that's because the 2H and 4H pencil doesn't smudge as much. And I'm able to get more precise lines with it, and it doesn't go dull as quick. And then I ink over that. And the other nice thing is, and it erases better than graphite that will bury its way into the fibers of the paper. So now that we're there, let's test out. It looks like our black ink has dried here. And let's test out our Windsor and Newton. I should cap my black ink before something catastrophic occurs. Let's give our white ink a little stir. Saturate our nib. I put way too much ink on my nib. I couldn't really see with that little bottle. And let's see. It flows well enough from the nib. So it flows well enough. Able to do very fine lines. But like I said, the only problem with this ink is it is turning transparent. So you might be better off applying this with a brush and going over several layers. So yeah, you can see that's starting to turn transparent. Now for scanning purposes and comic art reproduction purposes, that's perfectly fine. Those areas will still come out white. But now for the part I've been really waiting for, let's see how this indigo brush is coming along. Now the ink is still, the bristles are still, I'm still waiting for them to fully saturate. But let's see how this makes lines. Just like every other Fude pen I've used, it makes lines quite satisfyingly. Satisfyingly a word? That's a beautiful color though. I really like that color. Personally, I won't have a use for this beyond Inktober maybe. I don't add color unless it's with Copics traditionally. But this is super satisfying, let me tell you. I love Fude pens. The brushes on them are fantastic because you can get extremely fine lines. And like I said, I'm super shaky right now. But as you can see, you're able to get extremely, extremely fine lines with a Fude pen. And you can go thin to thick very well with them. And they're just wonderful to have. That's a fantastic color. Well, we already tested this bad boy out, but what I really wanted to see on here was how does it do dots? I know you can't see. Oh, so you can do quite little dots with little pressure. And then when I add more pressure, it does quite big dots. Okay. But I think what I like the most about it is because it is a rounded surface, the actual contact point can be actually quite thin with little pressure and then added. And you can actually do like some rendering, like fade out things with the gray. That's actually quite what I like. It's kind of cool. Clean color dot. It's pretty neat. It does draw in reverse or upside down, so you're able to get some very, very thin lines, which is a technique I use a lot with fountain pens for getting thin lines. So that's handy. Let's see. When I throw quick lines, how does it do? It works pretty well. It's okay. It's okay. I prefer the Tachikawas more than this, personally. But it works pretty well. Now, what I can say is, like with most fountain pens, the ink is not as dark as I would like. Which is what it is. If you're to look up close on that, which I know with the shadow you're not going to be able to see. I know with the fountain pens, the ink's not as dark as I would like with any fountain pen really. It's just a very common thing. But you're not going to be able to see this, but normally what you end up getting with fountain pens is the way the ink pools. So what I don't like about fountain pens, like if I have a line that I've drawn, see this pen is not quite as reliable for me. And say I'm drawing the line from this way to that way. The ink will a lot of times like pool if you look closely. So like this area will be darker, and then you have like a lighter area of ink when like upon close inspection. And I don't know why, but that's just something that bothers me about fountain pens, and all fountain pens are like that. That's why I prefer dip pens. But overall, I mean, the Copic is pretty cool. Its hesitancy to draw lines at certain angles kind of bothers me a little bit. But its ability to handle upside down nib work for fine hatching is fantastic. That's one of the things that I would definitely probably use this pen for. Otherwise, the nib is not that flexible. Like I'll go at the same speed and just vary pressure. It's not that flexible to create different line weights. So the need for a nib style, it's kind of weird. I think it's more designed like an architect nib, to where depending on the angle that you draw, might create different widths. I don't know. That is probably the most satisfying part, is getting that very fine line But I could just use a 0.5 micron for that, or the 0.05 micron for that. I don't know. It's a pretty cool little thing. Not my bag of tea, but there you have it. So the biggest plus on this is it is absolutely a fantastic ink that they included. You may not have to dilute yours. Like I said, I've had this for a bit and it's been used. And so diluting inks over time is part of what you have to do. But overall, this is a really good, all you're really missing from this is a good nib holder and nib. In my opinion, this is a really good, they included the fine liners, so maybe it's not that big of a deal, but I would have liked to seen a nib and a nib holder. Maybe like a Hunt 102 would have been a good just little add-in for this month's box. All in all, this is my first sketch box that I've received, and I paid for it. I'm actively subscribed. And so far, this is right up my alley, this type of subscription box. If they keep giving me items like this, kind of ink-based and dry media stuff, this is right up my alley. So anyway, thank you for joining me with my very first unboxing of the Sketchbox subscription art box, and I hope you enjoyed it. Anyways, guys, like the video if you liked it, disliked it if you disliked it, and leave a comment below, and everyone have a great day.